This week on Who Deserves to be Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame podcast, we're going to make the case for putting the black hardcore punk group Bad Brains into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This week, we're going to make the case for putting the Washington, D.C. black hardcore punk group Bad Brains into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. First, we'll check their stats, and then we'll explain who they are to the under 40 crowd. To the tail of the tape we go as usual, starting with their 1982 self-titled album. Bad Brains released 9 studio albums, 4 live albums, 1 compilation album, and 4 EPs, with 2007's album Build a Nation being their first album to hit the Billboard Albums chart, but only getting to number 100. 1986's Eye Against Eye is considered the group's best-selling album, even though it didn't chart. The last album that the group released was 2012's Into the Future. They also released a single, 1980's Pay to Come, which did not chart. Bad Brains started out as the jazz fusion band Mind Power back in the mid-1970s and was one of the first all-black groups to play hardcore punk and then mix it with reggae and funk starting all the way back in the early 1980s. The classic lineup was singer H.R., bassist Daryl Jennifer, guitarist Dr. No, and drummer Earl Hudson. Singer Sid McRae was an original member, but he was only there from 1977 to 1978. While their commercial reach was generally non-existent, to be nice about it, their influence in music is immense, partly due to the fan base that they had built while playing at the famed punk and new wave club CBGB's back in the East Village in New York City in the early 1980s. They influenced other punk and hard rock bands with black members like Living Colour, Fishbone, Seven Dust, and Rage Against the Machine, along with other bands like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Anthrax, No Doubt, Lamb of God, The Roots, The Offspring, Green Day, Faith No More, Jane's Addiction, The Deftones, Clutch, Soundgarden, the Foo Fighters, Guns N' Roses, Nirvana, and even the Beastie Boys, since the Beasties started out as a punk rock band in New York City before they became a hip-hop act. You may still get those bands eventually, but you don't get them the way that they turned out without Bad Brains' influence, especially the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They are one of the most influential bands of the past 50 years who you probably don't know, but should. Yet, they've never gotten the respect and adulation that they deserve. They've made the Hall's nomination list once before, but I can think of nothing better than for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame voters to finally induct Bad Brains into the class of 2026. And that is it for Who Deserves to be Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We also invite you to check out our other podcast, the Music History Today podcast, where we go over what happened on that date in music history. That podcast drops daily, including weekends, on this channel that you're either watching or listening to this podcast on. We also have the Music History In-Depth podcast, where we go more in-depth into the events that happened for that week in music history. And that podcast posts every Tuesday on this channel that you're either watching or listening to this podcast on. Thank you very, very much for listening or watching if you're on YouTube or Spotify.